Hi, and thanks for listening to Gossip with Celebrity, brought to you by Celebrity.com. This week we talk about the royals, including Princess Beatrice's wedding, and Kanye West. Our user feedback is about our shame fucks from last week, and we end with our weekly feature, the comments of the week. The stories, photos, and tweets we talk about can be found at Celebrity.com/podcast under episode 60. Hi, I'm Katie.
Okay. Sorry, I was still going to talk about my mic.
Is your mic working okay?
Yeah, my mic is on. I just can't believe that it was turned off the time that I checked it.
I test mine and do a test recording and everything, and today it just sounded like static, so I was panicking. Hi, I'm Katie. The founder and editor of Celebrity.com, and I write as Celebrity.
And I'm Chandra. I'm the head writer for Celebrity, and I write as Kaiser.
So this week is crazy hard for you, especially because you have to cover all these tough stories, and they just keep coming. And a lot of it's been about Kanye and his mental health problems, and people are blaming Kim, which is bothering us. We'll get into this in a little bit, but it's just contributed to what a crap week it's been so far.
The Kanye thing is not why I'm so upset this week. I'm not even upset. I think I'm just depressed. I think it's a lot of quarantine, pandemic, people being dumbasses, politics. All of it is just coming to a head. Most weeks, even when everyone else is feeling miserable, I'm like, no, this is going to turn around. We're fine. We're good. We're okay. And this week, I'm like, oh, shit, we're all going to die. Oh.
I think what got me is the Gestapo that are being sent into Portland. Trump's evil military agenda, he just doesn't give a shit about anybody. And it's scary. Yeah. People are being disappeared.
Well, do you think the Trump's Gestapo is like the straw that broke the camel's back for me?
Yeah, personally? I don't know, but for me,
yeah.
It's caused a lot of angst.
Yeah, that's been bad. I think it's just everything, though. A culmination of a lot of months of frustration, and I'm just sick of people dying. I'm sick of people being so fucking stupid about masks and taking very simple precautions.
I was at Dollar General this week, and I tweeted about it, and then I deleted it because I sounded like I was being a jerk. But this lady was in there without a mask, and she was coming straight towards me in a couple different aisles. And, like, she was challenging me. And then when we got to the checkout, she started ranting about going to a cashless system and how she hated that, and she couldn't do her laundry, and the government was trying to control her. And there are 6 or 7 signs on the door everywhere you look that masks are required. And I shouldn't have gone to Dollar General at 4. I just thought I would get a few things. There were 3 people in there without masks. That lady, a woman who was elderly with a America the Brave shirt on. You can't make this up. And a guy who was looking for a Western Union from his mom. Those were the 3 people in there without masks. And I was like, what is happening?
I mean, the only places I've been to in months are the gym, where no one but the gym people are wearing masks, and then the grocery store and CVS. And in both those places, everyone is usually wearing a mask. I haven't seen any of those crisis actors or crazy people. Crisis actors or crazy people.
Yeah.
Or Karens. But I'm glad I haven't run into them, because I would probably be the one to bitch them out.
I mean, I was talking under my breath, and then I'm like, shit, if she gets in my face, that's dangerous, you know? And it was really stressful. I'm not going to go shopping again. I usually go shopping at 9 o'clock on Friday nights because the Food Lion is open till 10 and nobody's there at 9. The people are kind of grumpy that you're shopping so late, but, you know, that's fine. But, yeah, I'm not going to shop before 8. Oh, CVS is nice usually, but I have seen people in there without a mask.
I haven't, but whatever. Our towns are real different, and
yeah,
I just haven't been going out at all. Yeah,
I thought I would get a few things, but since we last talked, Princess Beatrice got married. She married Eduardo Mapelli Mozzi, and she had about 20 people at her ceremony, which is in accordance with the UK guidelines for weddings. And that happened Friday morning. They didn't release any photos until Saturday. And it was stage managed by the palace, like so much. First,
Mm-hmm.
we got 2 photos on Saturday, and Edo put a couple more on his Instagram, and then he deleted those. And then the palace released those 2 photos on Monday.
Yeah, I thought that was very strange. I didn't make that into a bigger story, but I thought it was weird that Ito thought he could release 2 portraits himself, and then the palace was like, no, we have to release them, and you have to delete them.
Yeah.
I don't know. That was very strange.
It felt petty.
But it just shows you how stage managed the palace was about the whole wedding and everything around it. So
it was nice to have a royal wedding, but we got 4 whole pictures, and the stories were really meager, and it just kind of underlined how sinister that whole organization seems, right? Right?
I mean, sinister is probably not the word to use with regards to a wedding, but it was suspicious.
I said sinister organization. So, yeah, I'm right. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. I'm not going to argue with you about whether or not it was sinister, because the subtext of it was, let's protect the father of the bride who raped and human trafficked and hung out with a pedophile.
Yeah.
2 pedophiles. So
I'm sure there were 15 or 20 at some points. But
yeah.
So we only got pictures of Ito and Beatrice with the Queen and Prince Philip. Of course, her parents were not in the pictures. And Fergie didn't even get to tweet about or Instagram about the wedding until Tuesday. So,
which I think is funny. I don't think that's having to do with Prince Andrew's drama. I think Fergie is just tacky as hell. And the palace was like, don't post anything, please.
And we heard that Ito's son from his previous relationship, his boy Wolfie, was the best man in Page Boy. He's 4. We didn't get any pictures of him. That would have been adorable. We did get a story about how Beatrice is a great stepmom, and she had to work on it herself because Ito's ex-girlfriend didn't help her at all. That was the gist of it.
Yeah, there have been a few shady stories about Ito's relationship with his ex, Dara, and how Beatrice is as, a quote-unquote stepmom. They were even talking about how she already acts like a stepmom, even though, she's just Ito's girlfriend. Like, we were supposed to be happy for her about that or something. It's all very Leanne Rimes and Brandi Glanville, honestly.
Yep.
And especially the timeline of Ito and Dara's relationship and when it broke down. And he dumped her very suddenly. And I believe that there was some kind of overlap between the relationship with Dara and the start of his thing with Beatrice. I mean, there's so many shady things happening around Beatrice and Ito's relationship already. Yeah. The whole thing feels managed by her family and his family. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. It's suspicious when they got together, if not sinister. And we heard that the reception had an Indian-style tent, a bouncy castle, and glamping pods for overnight guests. And the menu was cured sea trout with capers, dill, and lemon, chorizo and ricotta salad, and toasted quinoa and filet steak.
Yeah, the salad sounded nasty, but, sea trout, I wanted to hear about the cake. We still haven't heard one damn thing about the cake. I remember people being really mad about Meghan and Harry's cake because they went away from the traditional royal wedding cake style and they didn't have a fruit cake. They had they had a lemon something or other cake. And there were people upset about that. I bet Beatrice and Ito had just the traditional fruit cake.
All right, I found the story.
I think royals are allowed to have 2 different cakes. I was going to say multiple cakes, but I think they're allowed to have 2. One has to be fruit cake, and then they can have another one. But the main one has to be fruit cake.
So you wrote March 2018. You wrote, it turns out Harry and Meg aren't doing the British traditional fruitcake at their wedding. Ugh. They're going to do a lemon elderflower cake instead. So who wants fruitcake at a wedding? Like, that's the thing you give away at Christmas that lasts forever because it's preserved.
Yep. I'm all for tradition, whatever, and that's a pretty simple royal tradition. I don't really care. I think that people should be allowed to pick their own goddamn cakes, though.
Yeah.
And this just goes along with the larger theme of criticizing Meghan and Harry's wedding over everything, every single detail, and then Beatrice and Ito's wedding gets held up as the most traditional thing, the most royal thing, blah, blah, blah. She's a true princess because she's white.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what she would have done. They would criticize Meghan.
Yeah.
So we got to see her wedding band, which was designed by Ito, and it matched the engagement ring. It's platinum with diamonds, and it's really pretty. I think it looks nice, but it's not made of like Welsh gold or whatever, which she said is a tradition for the royals.
Yeah, that's another tradition, and one that Beatrice broke. It doesn't matter if it's a prince marrying a commoner or a princess marrying a commoner. The queen will give whomever a piece of Welsh gold, and that will make up their wedding bands. And Meghan has a Welsh gold wedding band. So does Kate. I think all of the wives.
Nice.
But anyway, so it's interesting that Beatrice doesn't have a Welsh gold, but I think he probably got the wedding band to match her platinum and diamond ring, and it looks like a matching set. It looks like something that you would find at a mall or on Blue Nile or something.
Yeah, it's a nice set. It's kind of normal looking.
Yeah, it's very normal looking. I'm not a huge fan of like just the very blah circular diamond, but it suits her. She seems happy with it. It's fine. And once again, she was allowed to break protocol, and she's still held up as perfect and royal.
I like the side baguettes. I think those are pretty. I don't like a circular diamond either. I like a square or princess cut, but it's a pretty ring.
Yeah. The size makes it prettier. I think if it was a smaller circular diamond, it wouldn't look as good. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear you on that. Yeah. If it was smaller, it wouldn't pop as much. And everybody's talking about Beatrice's dress because it was originally the Queen's. She first wore it in 1962, and you were telling me today that she wore it to the opening of Parliament.
Mm-hmm. She's worn it twice, once to a premiere and once to the opening of Parliament. And both times the Queen wore the dress, it was sleeveless, and she had these nice straps, and it was fitted to the Queen's very particular body. I think we should remember that the Queen is a short woman, and she's buxom.
They're both 5'4", though. Yeah. Sorry,
she's just smaller boned, I think. When the Queen was a young woman, she had a more petite figure, and she was also quite buxom. Like, if you look back to the photos of the Queen wearing the dress, it looks really nice on her, I thought. But because the royals have another protocol about royal weddings, every bride is supposed to have sleeves on her dress. So Beatrice had the dress altered to have these puffy sheer sleeves, and they looked awful. And they looked so cheap and like they were just added on at the last minute, which is exactly what happened.
They don't look pretty at all. You wrote today about the fact that it was a last minute decision by Beatrice to wear the Queen's old dress. I mean, you could tell. The hem was a different fabric. They had like a balloon hem before. They changed the hem. They tacked on those sleeves. And it looked like the sleeves and the straps didn't go together.
Yeah. The sleeves, I thought they looked janky, but I understood why she had those stupid sleeves put on. I did not understand the skirt situation at all. There was no reason for that skirt.
Well, the hem probably got all dirty. That's what Sarah was saying in the Zoom meeting. The hem probably was dirty after, I'm trying to do the math and my math sucks. 60 years.
60 years, yeah. Oh, I have an orange kitty who wants to be on the podcast. Okay. Dexter, do we have to do this right now?
Aw. Yeah, we talked about this in our Zoom meeting, and a lot of the things that you wrote in your story the next day, you didn't know, but what we had already said. So that was kind of funny. So here's a segment from our Zoom meeting, and this is Sarah, Michelle, and Tanisha.
The length on the dress, I think, is less also to do with the height, because they're supposedly not that much different. But I think it's got ruined because it's a white dress. It's been worn quite a few times, and the puffball hem used to be like would have dragged on the ground. But she looked like someone cosplaying her grandma, rather than like I've got a friend who wore her great grandma's dress for her wedding, and it looks stunning on her. They made a few adjustments. They'd have to have adjusted the waist because Queen Elizabeth would have worn a corset with that. So they would have adjusted that. So if all they'd even done is move the straps over by 1/2 inch, then the sleeves would have fit better with the straps, because it's the gap between the weird sleeve and I have to have my straps moved on my dresses.
Yeah, you're right. Like, cosplay is exactly it. And like, she had to wear the same tiara that Queen Elizabeth wore, which I will say this to her credit. Some people were talking shit about how that tiara didn't look like it went with that dress, but I totally saw it. Like, because the tiara was straight lines, and so was the pattern on her dress, like going down. So I will give her that. I understand why she picked it, but I was like, girl, like the level of cosplay here is too much.
Okay, number one, we know that the Yorks don't have a lot of taste when it comes to fashion. So, but my question still is, what was the rush? Why not take time to make sure the dress fit properly? Those sleeves actually would have been beautiful if they were longer, if the strap was removed so that it's not sitting on top of the sleeve. I mean, there were so many little details that could have went into that if they would have just waited a couple of weeks. So what was the rush?
All right. Well, yeah, I agree with them.
Yeah.
But I still think that you said that Beatrice is 5'4" like the Queen. I think the Queen is smaller than Beatrice. I think Beatrice has fudged her height. I think she's taller than the Queen. That's how she's always looked. And I think that that's why the skirt is so fucked up.
Oh, because they had to take it off to suit her size.
Yeah. I mean, and just different body types. I think Beatrice isn't as well endowed in the bust as the Queen was.
You can see the difference.
Yeah, and I also think that they had to change the waist, and that's why the skirt just looks so terrible. And I don't understand, even if they only had 2 weeks to alter the dress, even if they only had a week, they could have done a better job. It just looks so half-assed. Ugh.
And we were talking about this. They have people on staff who could have worked on it. It's not like they had to send it away. I'm sure they have a couple of tailors on call that work for them primarily. So, yeah, it looked like she was cosplaying her grandma. You know why she did that. They were just trying to suck up.
Yeah, and I mean, this is part of a larger conversation about the Yorks versus the Wales, Prince Andrew versus Prince Charles. I think, obviously, the Queen is doing the most to protect Prince Andrew and Prince Andrew's children. That's a given. But how fucking short-sighted is Prince Andrew to just put all of his eggs in this basket of, oh, the Queen will just protect me and protect my family, and we'll all be okay if we just stay on the Queen's good side? That's what this is.
What other basket does he have, though, except for he has nothing else? This is his only play, right?
Well, I mean, if he had been smarter 20 years ago, he could have made nice with Charles. Have a better relationship with Charles. Because as it is now, when Charles is king, Andrew is going to be totally out. The daughters are going to be totally out. Eugenie and Beatrice are never going to be even part-time royals under King Charles.
That'll be kind of funny.
Yeah, it will be. Especially if Meghan and Harry don't come back, which I don't think they will.
No, they're not gonna. That's done. That's done.
Yeah, I think that's done too. But I think the dream for Charles and Charles's people was that, okay, the Queen screwed over the Sussexes, but when Charles is king, he can ask them to come back and he can make sure that they are provided for and that they will come and support him. But the way that everything has gone down with Harry and Meghan, they're not coming back.
He still has to deal with his brother and sister-in-law, and they're going to be bitter as hell as they've always been. Yeah, I don't think they're going to come back ever.
Yeah, and just think about how much worse it will be once William and Kate are Prince of Wales and Princess of Wales.
Yeah.
Like, it will be so bad for Harry and Meghan if they did come back.
Yeah, they'll be lording it over them. So you were writing about the timeline of this wedding. It was, just this Friday, and they only had a couple weeks to get it together because the UK opened restrictions for small wedding parties on July 4th. But July 2nd is when Ghislaine Maxwell got arrested, and then July 3rd, the U.S. attorney for the Southern District had that press conference and said she wanted to talk to Prince Andrew. They framed it nicer than that, but obviously he's wanted for questioning.
Prince Andrew would have us believe that he is merely being asked to provide a witness statement, and the U.S. attorney made it perfectly clear that he is a person of interest and they need to interview him, not take a witness statement, interview him.
Yeah.
All right.
So we didn't get a lot of news about the Sussexes this week. We heard that Meghan's mom is living at Tyler Perry's house and helping take care of Archie. And we also heard from her side in the case against the Daily Mail that they're dragging out the legal proceedings against her because they're trying to get more exclusives, which is very predictable from them.
Yeah, and we've known that for a while, and that Meghan just saying it out loud just makes it, I guess, real.
Yeah.
For a lot of people.
Yeah, her legal team. And one other thing we talked about in our Zoom meeting was how everyone has to bend to the Queen's will and how and why that happened. So they brought up some points that I hadn't considered, which is that the Queen never, I think it's everybody watching The Crown, which I didn't watch The Crown because it feels like work to me. I know that's terrible.
It's a good series, though. It honestly is.
Yeah. I watched the first couple episodes, but Tanisha was saying that people around the Queen are miserable because she's kind of punishing everybody because she had to become queen early in her life and she never expected to. So here's that segment.
Now, this came to mind to me about Queen Elizabeth too. I actually think she was really traumatized by the succession situation with Edward. And I think her having to step into that role that she was not prepared for because she was never supposed to ever be in that role. And she had to give up so much of her life for it. I literally think she was so traumatized by it that she forces everybody in her circle to have to do the same thing.
She was, one, never meant to be queen. And even if she was queen, she was never meant to be queen that young.
Right.
And a traumatic way. Like her dad died of lung cancer back then, like it wasn't going to be easy. It's not easy now, but it's also the fact that she does view it, one, as a job. You do what you have to do. So Margaret was the first one to get divorced. Before that wasn't even an option. You just put up with it, and that she thinks that she is divinely chosen by God.
So I like what Sarah said too about how the Queen is like, I'm divinely chosen by God.
Well, I mean, that is what she believes.
Yeah.
And King George VI and Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mom, they never thought that they would be king and queen. And they didn't want their girls, their two daughters, to be raised that way. And they had a very happy family life.
Oh.
We talk a lot about the dysfunction of the Windsors, but George and Elizabeth, the Queen Mom, they loved Margaret and Elizabeth.
Okay.
I mean, they adored them and they raised them in this very loving, protective family. And then Queen Elizabeth just got stunted. You know, when she became queen, I don't think it's all down to she never expected to be queen, because she knew that that would happen since the age of whatever, 4 or 5 or 6 or something. I just think that she's an emotionally stunted woman. And
you know what they say about famous people? They get stunted at the year they get famous. And it's like that for the Queen too, where they get stunted at the year they get power.
it could be. I think Philip doesn't deserve a pass here. He had an extremely dysfunctional childhood, an extremely dysfunctional family. He has extreme abandonment issues for good reason, because he was abandoned multiple times by many people in his family. He raised these kids very poorly, and it shows. And Elizabeth was not around. She was not a hands-on mother to these kids.
No, not at all.
All of them now senior citizens, but anyway.
So this week, Kanye West he was in the midst of a bipolar episode. He's been in one. And we didn't talk about this on the podcast because we just didn't bother, but he announced he was running for president earlier this month. And then he had, over the last weekend, he had a rally in South Carolina. And he said he wanted to abort North, and, he started crying about that. And he said Harriet Tubman didn't really free the slaves and a bunch of other stuff. And then he's been tweeting and deleting.
Yeah, let's just stop for a second and say that we didn't prioritize the story about Kanye, quote unquote, running for president because we knew what it was.
Yeah, oh yeah, I didn't mean it like that.
This shit has been happening for several years now, and we know when he's in a manic episode. We can see it, and that's why we just try to ignore him. I'm speaking for myself. I will report it because it's my job, but I try to say, look, we know what this is.
Yeah, it's not a legitimate thing. So Kim tried to help him. Kanye tweeted that Kim was trying to fly to Wyoming, that's where he's been staying, with a doctor to lock him up. And then, we heard that Kim had been trying to get Kanye help for weeks. He tweeted a bunch of stuff accusing her of cheating on him with Meek Mill, calling his mother-in-law Kris Jong-un.
Which was funny.
And,
I mean, that was
yeah, that was clever. And then Kim leaked to us on Wednesday that she's meeting with lawyers to get a divorce. There was this long story in People that you covered about how Kim and Kanye have been talking divorce for months, which you've been reporting on that for the whole time.
Yeah, and I mean, because throughout April, May, June, it was a steady stream of stories about how Kim and Kanye just could not stand to be together anymore, and that they were living separately, and that Kim was completely over it. I think it's partly a quarantine divorce because how do I want to say this? They were basically living separately already, but they still put in appearances and they still spent some time together. But the quarantine really changed that, and they were forced to be closer together, and it was a disaster.
I think also they have less help, so that's gotta stress them out.
Yeah. And I've just been having so many flashbacks to the 2016 Paris robbery and that whole story. And the larger point I want to make is that Kim Kardashian is not my favorite person. But I don't think she's the devil. And so many people do, and I don't understand.
It doesn't matter what story we report on her. People will get in there to bash her. They'll bring up her sex tape. They'll talk all this smack about her, call her a porn star. She can't do anything without people criticizing her.
Right. And the level of vitriol about every single thing it's exhausting, and it is misogyny. I do feel like it's the ingrained misogyny of society, or whatever larger point you want to make. As a professional gossip, I view Kim's celebrity as that she's no more or less an asshole than anybody else.
Yeah.
She fucks up sometimes, and we call her out. But she's also a human being, and she does some okay things, or she has struggles, or she is the victim of a crime, and it's okay to have sympathy for her on that level.
So what you're talking about before is that after she got robbed, she thought she was going to get raped and or murdered. She was really afraid for her life. People were still mean to her, and they blamed her for it. And then Taylor Swift used it for a video. Yeah. That's low. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
They treated it like it was Kim's fault, that she should have done this or this or this. or that she set it up, or that it was all just a plot line for the reality show. And I'm like, do you guys even hear yourselves? You wouldn't make that argument about any other victim of any other crime. But because it's Kim, people have this sort of just knee-jerk hatred. It upsets me because Kim is dealing with some real shit with Kanye. And she's trying to do it with as much grace as possible.
So she issued that statement about him, and it was kind of lovely. And people still dismissed it, where she said, living with bipolar disorder does not diminish or invalidate his dreams and his creative ideas. And basically that they wanted compassion and empathy for him.
Right. Another part of her statement was that basically she can't do anything.
Yeah.
He's an adult. If he's not being violent, if he's not threatening himself or threatening others, there's nothing she can do. He has to want to get help.
Exactly. So in our Zoom meeting, we have Karen, she's a nurse, and Michelle, who's a therapist. And they both talked about this, and they said basically the same thing. Here's that segment.
I certainly would not blame Kim if she filed for divorce, because, I mean, I'm sure she's been dealing with this for a very long time. And it's probably been escalating for years. But, I mean, she's got 4 young children to think about. And their safety, to me, is paramount. And to me, it was scary just reading it. It's like, imagine being face-to-face with him, being that belligerent, and how scary that could be for children. And so I certainly wouldn't blame her for filing for divorce. But I mean, I know just from the medical standpoint, unless he is threatening to hurt himself or hurt somebody else, he can't be involuntarily committed. He's bipolar. And at the end of the day, he knows right from wrong. And no one can make him do anything.
I'm a therapist, and like that was one element where I was getting pissed at some of the celeb bitchy commenters, even because some of them were like, you know, she should have never had 4 kids with this person knowing he's bipolar. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but like bipolar disorder is very easily managed with medication and therapy. The issue is people have to be willing to commit to do that. And Kanye isn't. But, you know, it kills me when people are like, well, that person has bipolar disorder, so no happy marriage or kids for them. I think it's a stressful thing to think about a family member getting, but it's also really manageable.
It's like Karen is saying, if somebody is not going to kill themselves or hurt somebody else, they're never going to commit them. And there's a really high threshold for that.
And again, going back to the 2016 Paris incident, Kim was legitimately traumatized, and she legitimately needed Kanye to be there for her. And that was triggering for him.
Yeah.
That started the dominoes for his huge breakdown, in which he had to be forced into a hospitalization. I don't think they've ever been completely clear about what happened to him, but we heard that he was, you know, actually physically restrained. And so you can imagine how bad that was. And to be dealing with that on top of her trauma from being robbed at gunpoint.
Yeah.
All right. The last point I'll make is that what I liked about Kim's open letter to the world about Kanye's is that she made it sound very relatable for people who have dealt with it in their families. Because, I mean, Kanye, this is just what happens when you're bipolar. And I like that she was just sort of matter of fact about that.
And she's basically said there's nothing she could do, and she's tried. That came up in our meeting. We had people who had loved ones with bipolar, and they said the same thing about what they went through trying to get them help and how it was tough.
Right.
All right, let's move on to the user feedback. So a lot of people liked our shamefuck talk. We should come up with stuff like that every week because it's fun. We need it this week. When we were talking about Diplo and Ben Affleck. Nev commented, all the shame talk was hilarious. You had me rolling on the subway. I'm with you, Kaiser. I do not know if that means that she would fuck Diplo, but she did say she's with you. Evie's mom said, Diplo, regional shame fuck. Just what I call him. He knows no geographical boundaries.
Yeah. People were also insulting Diplo on my Twitter, but that's fine.
Yeah.
More Diplo for me.
I mean, you bring it up, so. And then a couple weeks ago, Vivian wrote that she had a problem. Her house burned down. And so she had a smoke alarm, and she said it's not compulsory in South Africa, but it saved our lives. So she said I think she was away from home. She said she was in UCI for 2 weeks, and you kept me company. I felt like I had to say something. I've been following you for years. So I hope you're okay, Vivian. Yes, and that, that your house is okay and you're safe. All right, let's move on to the comments of the week. My comment of the week is on the post where David Schwimmer says Ross really was on a break from Rachel. There's no question. And from Friends, the story. It's so dumb. And you said it was dumb when you covered it.
It is dumb. And I can't believe that we're still talking about this 25-year-old show. Oh.
I know. And that show is so basic. I never got the appeal of that show, even when it was on.
Well, Frasier was definitely the better show at the time.
Yeah, Frasier was okay. It was like 2.5 Men or something. It was just like the vanilla white bread show on TV all the time. It wasn't that great. Yeah. Anyway.
I've never even seen an episode of 2.5 Men, though.
Oh, that's really bad. But that was on all the time. So Davinia said, that's what Jada told Will, which is we were on a break.
About it's not even a question, they were on a break.
Who knows?
All right. My comment of the week is from Sarah Ferguson, the story about how she finally got to post something about Beatrice's wedding. And how do you say her name? It has an umlaut. Zuri.
I can't say umlauts right. My mother-in-law tells me that.
well, hell, I won't be able to either then. So Zori says, I have to commend her for looking like she's stuffed into a sausage casing at every public appearance. I have nothing else about this thirsty grifter other than I hope she goes down when Andrew does. Oof. And that's what I'm talking about.
I don't want them to go down, but I would like them to go away.
I mean, Fergie deserves to go away or go down. It doesn't matter.
She's talking about Fergie. I was thinking she was talking about Beatrice.
No, she's talking about Fergie and Andrew.
Yeah, Fergie is a sausage casing. Yeah. I agree.
They're the thirsty grifters. They can go down.
Yeah, they're suited for each other. All right, well, thanks for listening, bitches. Fuck the police.
Thanks, bitches. Fuck the police.
Thank you for listening to the Celebrity Podcast. Please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you listen. If you like us, please turn off your ad blocker when you visit our site. You can text us or leave a voicemail at 434-218-3219. Our music is from AA Alto, Maiden, and via Premium Beat and Sound of Picture. Thanks again.